Hey everybody, we're the Menschwarmers. I'm Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you? Happy mid-July. It is. I'm schwitzing. It's hot today.
Yeah, it's nice out. It finally feels like decent summer, not crazy hot. I'm sure it'll get worse and worse as August goes on. But yeah, getting out there, playing a little golf here and there when we can
Yep.
squeeze it in. You and I haven't been out to play together in a while, unfortunately.
No, we have not.
Um,
Um, been
but
meaning to, but we have not.
what can you do?
What can you do?
Um, yeah, we got an exciting show for everyone. Gabe, you want to tell everybody a little bit about the interview that we have coming up at the end of the show?
Yeah, we have sort of a special guest mensch warmer today. Last week, I did a collaboration interview with Ellin Bessner of our sister podcast, the CJN Daily, interviewing recent 40th overall pick in the NHL draft and very proud young, nice Jewish boy, Andrew Cristall.
Yeah,
Um,
out
of
of
the of now recently of the Washington Capitals and Kelowna Rockets.
right, kids from Vancouver originally, and picked pretty high in the draft. Pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Washington's got a real chance to be a real Jewish sports town between him and Danny Avdia, who the Wizards do a lot of Jewish press about, like Hebrew language press, stuff like that.
Oh,
That's pretty exciting.
absolutely. I don't think there are any Jews on the Washington Nationals right now or on the football team.
I
Although
don't
their
know.
Jewish owner
Yeah,
was just forced to sell them. So,
that's true.
there's one less. We've got one Jew in Washington sports replacing one that is probably rightfully being ousted.
Well, the new owner of the Commanders is also Jewish, right? Because it's the guy, I forget his name, but he is the owner of the 76ers, right? I think it's Levin
Yes,
or
and he is also a Jewish guy.
Josh Harris. Is that who I was thinking of? Maybe I was wrong on that. Josh Harris is the businessman investor
Yes.
who is part of the ownership group of the Steelers and the 76ers.
Ah,
That's what I was thinking of. He led a group to purchase the Washington Commanders. That's right.
yes. And
Okay.
and is he Jewish?
Yes, he is. Absolutely.
The Commanders' new mascot is a pig named Major
Really?
Tuddy. He is an anthropomorphic pig in a combat helmet, sort of because players on the previous Washington football team were nicknamed the Hogs. So that's a little
Uh,
trafe, even if the new ownership is Jewish.
well, they were discussing whether or not the new ownership would change the name from Commanders, which has only been for like 2 seasons. I guess there was one season of it being the Washington football team, and
I
then it
say go
became the
back to
Commanders
football team,
last year.
just with the
I think
logo
football
of
team's
W.
great. Yeah, yeah, I think it's great, and like let a nickname develop organically. You know what I mean? Like teams didn't all have nicknames back in the day. They were just like, oh, those guys are wearing red socks. What if we call them the Red Sox? Stuff like that. Or those guys are also wearing red socks. What if we call them the Reds? Like that was like
Right.
the way baseball team, or like the Pirates are like they kept stealing players from other teams, right? Like
Yeah.
they were called the Pirates. So I think an organic development of a sports team name is exciting.
So just to go back, the list of teams that Harris Blitzer now owns, now that they own the Washington football team. So it's a partnership, Harris and Blitzer. They own the Philadelphia 76ers,
Right.
the New Jersey Devils, Crystal Palace FC in England,
Okay.
the Cleveland Guardians,
Right.
the Joe Gibbs NASCAR racing team,
Wow.
Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, and Real Salt Lake of the MLS.
Wow.
So they own a lot of things.
Why is it called Real Salt Lake? It's not Royal, and also they're not in Spain. Why is it called Real? That doesn't make any sense.
It is the Spanish title, Royal. It's sort of, they chose that because they wanted it to be simple, and sort of, I guess, like a European style thing. I mean, they could have called it Real Salt Lake, pronouncing it in English. But they are going sort of Real.
Well, no.
You know what? Why are they called the Utah Jazz?
Okay, but that's a different. Well, yes, that is a also. So this is just joining in the tradition of Salt Basin area misnomer soccer or misnomer sports teams, I guess. Then because
Exactly.
right, it just doesn't make any sense because it's like if I don't know, I can't even think of another example that's called Real, like Royal. It's in a different language. Like it doesn't make any sense to not translate that. But and there's nothing royal about it. Like Real Madrid, I assume, was some sort of royal patronage association or something like that.
And their logo is a crest.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I mean, have any kings or princes or dukes ever played for the Kansas City Royals? I'm sure they've had a player named Duke back in the
No,
day.
but the Kansas City Royals is named after something else. I think it's named after like something that was called the Royal something in Kansas City.
Royal Blue, I
You
think.
think it's named after the color, like the
Um,
Red Sox?
uh, it could be. It could very, very well be. They're named for the type of cow that is farmed in
Okay,
Missouri.
so there you go.
Yes, exactly.
Anyways,
It appears I can't right now find any members of the Kansas City Royals history who are named King, Duke, or uh, or I guess Jack. There's definitely
yeah,
Jacks who've played for the
sure.
Royals. I can think of Buck Martinez being one whose real name is John, who might also be Jack.
I don't think he goes by Jack if he also goes by Buck. I think that's too many nicknames.
No, that's Buck is just
Yeah.
the regular one.
Anyways, let's move on to talk a little bit about some Jewish sports news before we get to the interview that you and Ellin did with Andrew Cristall. Off the top, one thing I wanted to highlight, it's been a big week for the Gelof family. The brothers Jake and Zach Gelof. People might remember Zach as a member of Team Israel. He has long been a highly ranked prospect in the Oakland Athletics organization, and he made his MLB debut this week. So he was, as people noted, the 18th Jew to play in the major leagues this year, which is very exciting.
Yep.
And ostensibly a new record, and obviously a significant number for those doing their numerology at home. So very exciting for him. He's gotten into a few games already. He's gotten his first RBIs, which is great, and 2 stolen bases on the season.
And stolen bases as well.
Yeah, so not a lot of fun being on the A's right now, I think, but nevertheless, he's part of their future. He's a prospect, and he's a guy who can contribute. Not a very highly touted guy, I think, out of high school, but it was eventually picked in the second round by the A's. I think he was drafted by the A's in the second round, and made his debut, and also contributed, at the World Baseball Classic with Team Israel. I think he's played on Team Israel in a few situations. I can't recall if he was on the Olympic team, but he has been definitely a contributor. And we should say that's not the only thing that happened to the family, because his younger brother Jake Gelof was also picked in the second round of the Major League Baseball's amateur draft this year. He was picked 60th overall.
And who picked him? Maybe the most historically Jewish team in Major League Baseball. This is an argument we could probably have, if we get any of our Angelino friends back on the show. But picked by the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah. So very exciting for him. He's a 21-year-old. He had a really solid career at the University of Virginia. So time for him to come out. And I believe he signed. I don't think there was any issue with that. I mean, college players usually sign without too much issue. So probably, based on if you want to use his older brother's debut as a trajectory, we're not going to see Jake in the big leagues for at least another 2 years. I would say, he's a college player, so he has some polish to him already, I'm sure, but probably another year or two at least before he's able to make his debut, either for the Dodgers or somewhere else. So very exciting. We're probably going to see them as the first. I believe will be the first brothers to play for Israel at the same time in the 2026 WBC. So that would be exciting.
I think so. It would be very, very cool to see a pair of brothers suit up.
Yeah.
Similarly, on speaking of other Team Israel members making their major league debuts, our former guest Spencer Horwitz made his major league debut. I think since we've talked about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Had a couple of games and then back down in the minors, but he'll be back soon.
Yeah, probably. People have been talking about potentially as a trade, as somebody might get traded, as a high, decent prospect for the Blue Jays in terms of who they have available, and somewhat blocked right now, obviously by Vladdy Guerrero and Brandon Belt. But we really look forward to Spencer having more of an opportunity to contribute, whether it's with the Jays or elsewhere. There were a few other Jews picked in the MLB draft as well. Zach Levinson was picked 158th overall. You can see all of them. I think there's a full list on Jewish Baseball News's website. They do real yeoman's work. I've shouted them out before about really identifying people. They've reached out to people very well and try to get the inside information. So exciting. As we always say with drafts, it's exciting, and we may not have to think about, or you might not have the chance to think about or see some of these guys for a few years, right? It's always, hurry up and wait. But still exciting, that there's these guys who were drafted and, will add to the Jewish rosters in the next few years, and exciting, I think, as well for Team Israel, because it's more identified players who can be reached out to and recruited for Team Israel in the future.
Totally. And it's also very cool to see people, as we talk about the point of this podcast, so many people caring about how many Jewish prospects there are.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a good number that continue to grow. And we're following it. We're keeping everyone abreast, but special thanks to everyone else who's keeping us honest and keeping track of this as well, because, the spirit of caring about who's Jewish in the baseball draft lives on. Related to that, we sort of have a disappointing Mike Jacobs All-Star to bring you guys today. Jamie and I were discussing this earlier. Up until today, we were mistaken and found out that Baltimore Orioles number 2 prospect Cade Povich is neither related to Maury Povich nor Jewish.
I thought I had seen that he was before, but I guess I was mistaken. But yeah, good Mike Jacobs All-Star. I'm sure when he gets called up to the bigs, people will be wondering that and asking on Twitter.
Yeah,
if he's
Jewish. We want to preempt the Cade Povich questions. He's got sort of the cross emoji in his social media bios.
Right.
Usually a sign that someone is not a member of the tribe often. But he could surprise us yet.
Yeah. Talking about youth, there's another shout out I want to give to Israel's under 20 basketball team, which was participating at the FIBA U20 European Championship. This is the sort of biennial, youth tournament for men 20. I think they actually go up to 21 or 22. Or maybe only 20 now, but there's some rules about that. But Israel came in second. They lost to France in the finals. But a really solid run. Israel has had a lot of success at the FIBA U20 before. They won back in 2019 and 2018 as well. That was their in 2019. I think that was when they hosted it in Tel Aviv. But this time was in Greece, and Israel really took down some very solid teams. Like Israel beat Spain. They beat Germany on their way to the finals. And those are some real, powerhouses of basketball. So, exciting to see Israel continue to show at a international level for basketball. And those are guys who, maybe not quite pro ready yet, or just starting out on their professional careers. But guys who have a real shot. Danny Wolf, who went to Yale University and played on the basketball team there, was named to the all-tournament team. Which I'm sure is a great honor for him. I'm not sure what's up with him in terms of.
It feels like there isn't really much of there's sort of a never-ending stream of Jewish athletes who happen to go to Yale.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's funny to think like a guy who plays basketball at Yale, like maybe is like good enough to play overseas somewhere after they graduate. Like might not make the NBA, but like could make a pro roster abroad. Obviously, if he's good enough to play at U20 and make the all-tournament team. Danny's also 7 feet tall, so like he is maybe the tallest Jew we've ever had. And
as a person,
yeah, exactly. Just in general. So maybe that, like, again, like tall guys are always going to be in demand and have a spot, but also like, I feel like, well, he could also just like go intern at an investment bank and like do really well, career wise. I don't know what his major is. I don't know what his interests are. I'm just saying, like, guy goes to Yale, he's probably going to do okay, like regardless. So
yeah,
like,
he's going to be fine.
Like grinding it out for like 14,000 a year in like a Division II Finnish basketball league, like, might not be worth it.
I mean, for a couple of years, but you think a guy like that, someone's going to want to hire him.
Right.
Some Jewish guy is going to want to say, I want that guy working for my company. Yeah, go. It's okay. You can go play your game and then come back and help me do some math tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea of like a 7, I don't know if there's any other profession that like benefits from height. Obviously, like basketball is like number one, like way up there, and then like sure, there's other sports. See, I don't know, because as a fireman, sometimes you need to get into like tight spaces and stuff like that. Like, how about like a zookeeper? To what? hang with the giraffes, like just to be
I
there.
think so. To like give a giraffe a haircut.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I think that's what ladders are for. I don't know that like natural height is strictly needed for that. And I think like there's lots of studies about our patriarchal society, whatever. Like tall men are tend to be more successful in life and things like that, statistically. But like, I don't know if they've measured like 7 foot tall dudes and if this guy becomes an investment banker or a hedge fund manager, like is he just like able to intimidate people or just people so wowed by his 7-footness? I'd like to see some data on that.
It totally is. Is it a Jewish sports question to ask who the tallest Fortune 500 CEO ever was?
Oh, interesting question. I know that Bill Gates' dad, who I don't know if he was ever a Fortune 500 CEO, but he was a big business executive.
I think he was a big lawyer.
Oh, is he a lawyer? Okay, but he was a lawyer for like big companies, I think in Seattle. But
yeah,
I think he's like 6'11" or something like that. Not Jewish, but
really?
But like that's the only person I can think of who is like super tall in the business world. I'm sure there's been lots of other people, but anyways, I think it's very cool as like a reasonably tall person. I'm like in awe of people who are like 6'8" and taller. I just think it's like the coolest thing.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You don't think about how this stuff, other sports where this matters, and Jewish guys don't really have the experience of being that tall. I remember something that Nate Fryman of the of the former Team Israel World Baseball Classic team said, back in the day, one of the anti-Semitic comments he would get is that like people didn't know that Jews were that tall.
Right.
And we might have on this podcast referred to him as the tallest Jewish person. But now we've got another one.
Yeah.
Denny Avdia is also probably taller too.
Yeah.
Omri Caspi, any of the basketball players, the non-basketball division.
Moving.
Anyway.
Just one more thing I wanted to mention before we get to the interview. I wanted to give a shout out and a mazel tov to Daniel Weinman, who is the 2023 world champion of the World Series of Poker main event. He won the $10,000 World Series of Poker main event.
It's only worth $10,000.
The buy-in is $10,000. The take-home, Gabe, is $12 million.
Wow!
A huge prize, $12,100,000. He took down the final table. He beat out a total of 10,043 other players. It's a huge win. I think by obviously the win, the biggest win of anyone's career. It gets a little splashy towards the end of the main event, just because like I think they've all sort of cut a deal one way or another. I don't know the actual details of it, like if they've announced that they cut a deal. They all take points on each other's stakes and stuff like that. But I think he's a pro poker player. He's a guy who's been a grinder. I don't think he has any like huge cashes that I know of or that are listed online. But this is a huge win. I mean, it's $12 million, a life-changing amount of money, no matter how it's split or who owns a piece of it or whatever. Like that's an insane amount of money. So good for him.
I did a little research in here.
Yeah.
He is not the first Jewish person to win the World Series of Poker.
No. Yeah.
Surprisingly, they're actually, I don't want to say overrepresented, but we are only 6 years away from Scott Blumenstein,
right?
From New Jersey, winning it back then as his biggest, win main event. There's also a Hall of Famer who won the 1981 World Series of Poker. He's won 3 different times actually. Stu Unger,
yes,
Hall of Famer, who's
Unger, Unger won legend. 80, 81, and 97. I think that was like his big comeback. I wouldn't say recommend, but if you are interested in the world of gambling and or Michael Imperioli, he starred in a made-for-TV movie biopic where he plays Stu Unger, and it is like
wow.
I wouldn't say it's good per se. Like it's definitely like it is a TV movie. Like it has, I think, that sort of quality, but it does sort of I think get into the details of how he sort of won these crazy games and he was sort of like a gambler's gambler.
Yes.
And it's Michael Imperioli. He's definitely doing like I would say it's a character that's not that different from Christopher from The Sopranos. But it's worth checking. It's worth checking out if you think that would be interesting to you. If any of this sounded interesting, watching a movie about legendary poker player Stu Unger, then check out High Roller, the Stu Unger story. I got to assume that seems like the kind of movie that's streaming on YouTube. Like it wouldn't be that hard to find. It's not pirated per se. It's just available. So check it out.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things about Stu Unger, and you're talking about Michael Peeler early, and this guy, like he's obviously a poker legend, and you read about his life and you learn about his life, and like he is everything you hope and expect, like a professional gambler to be. Like he's won and lost lifetimes worth of money betting on like coin flips in the hallways of hotels and stuff like that. There's a famous story about Stu Unger is that, he was so good at counting cards in blackjack that he was banned globally. Like there was not a casino in the world that would let him play blackjack. Because he was that famous for being such a good poker player and a good blackjack player. But he's sort of, I guess, maybe the greatest Jewish gambler of all time since, I don't know, Maimonides tested bloodletting for the first time.
When Solomon said cut the baby in half, that was the greatest Jewish gamble of all time, and it worked out.
Yeah, that was the biggest bluff. That was the biggest bluff in Jewish history until Stuart Unger at the 1987 final table.
No one can compete with the big one with the big guy. But go take your son and sacrifice him on that hill over there. Just kidding. Here's a ram. That's probably that's got to go down as the biggest bluff in history.
Yeah, that's one of the top 3 Jewish bluffs. No question.
God's range is pretty wide. Like he could be playing anything. He's playing.
That's true. God, yeah, you have no idea the size of his stack. Absolutely no idea.
Taking a deuce 7 to the showdown because it's just like at the end of the day, you can just be like, actually, I had aces. So it's no fun playing against him. Anyways, that's enough degenerate poker talk for us. I think if anyone ever wants to hear us talk more about poker, I think we're both on the side of poker being a sport.
Yes,
definitely more a sport than it isn't a sport. This World Series took like nine days to play. Like it's an insane amount of stamina that goes into it. So congratulations to Daniel Weinman. I mean, it is a huge accomplishment to win this thing.
It's absolutely terrific and extremely cool. It's like you hear about the run of good luck. Good luck and preparation can get you a lot of places, and that's really the combination of it.
You absolutely need some luck. And I mean, he won a hand that was he had jacks, and there was a three-way all-in before the flop. He had jacks. He went up against queens and kings, and he hit a jack, and because of that, he stuck around. So there's always going to be some luck involved for anyone who wins this thing, and the luck was on his side. So mazel tov to Daniel. Would love to speak to him. Would love to speak to him sometime. I'm sure it's incredibly busy time right now for him, and can only imagine one. It's nice to win $12 million in Vegas. I feel like that's the right place to win it. Like you can put some of that to good use pretty quickly.
And lastly, before we get to the interview, one other sort of possibly Jewish follow-up I want to follow up. During the Tokyo Olympics 2 years ago, we searched long and hard for any of the skateboarders to be Jewish. We thought that would be really cool if there was a Jewish skateboarder. We found a PhD student, an active PhD student from France, whose name was Charlotte Heim. And there was not a lot of information about her. It is hard to find out whether or not she is Jewish. Most of the information is related to her PhD that is available publicly on the internet. However, following her on Instagram, she appears to be spending a lot of time shredding in Israel. Wow. I don't know if Israel has a big enough skate scene for non-Jews from France to just show up one day and start grinding rails on the Tel Aviv boardwalk.
Right.
So I think this is a piece of evidence for Charlotte Heim being Jewish. If there are any French-speaking skate fans out here, reach out and we'll see if we can use your skills to let us know this.
That's great. And
she's a Red Bull athlete as well.
That's great. And, we'll continue to follow up with her or this and see if she makes it back to the 2024 Olympics, which are going to be in Paris. So I think for like France gets an automatic entrant for it. So it'll definitely have women skateboarders appearing. So maybe it'll be her or maybe somebody else. But
absolutely. One thing that's great about Charlotte Heim is when you Google her, the answer is French neuroscientist and skateboarder.
That's pretty cool. That's like real, like Lisa Simpson winning the Nobel Prize for kickboxing in Homer's fantasy.
That's true. That's true. Neuroscientist and skateboarder.
And,
Here's her PhD from Paris Descartes
wow.
University in cognitive neuroscience.
Anyways, let's move on now to your interview with Andrew Cristall.
And joining us now from Vancouver is Andrew Cristall, and from Toronto, the co-host of Menschwarmers, the Jewish sports podcast of the CJN. And we're doing a cross episode, like the Flash and the Avenger. I don't know.
The CJN cinematic universe is coming together.
Yeah, the MCU, JCU, Jewish cinematic universe. Welcome to both of you. It's great to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Mazel Tov. I guess we can say that. Congratulations on this giant week and a half for you.
Yeah, no, it's been really kind of whirlwind of a few weeks here. So it's been kind of nice to now finally get back home and relax a little bit, but it's been awesome. So thank you.
You get drafted, you go to training camp, you get all this stuff done in Washington, and then you sign, right? So that's the last step. But can we go back a little bit to what you just did for the last week when you were in Washington and all the things that they made you do? What can you just talk a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah. So yeah, basically I was in Nashville before for the draft, and then I got picked, and the same day I got picked, they flew me out to Washington right away. So it was pretty fast, and then I got down to DC, and the whole camp was kind of just you're on the ice and working out and at the facility, and just kind of hanging out with all the prospects and meeting the coaching staff and the management, and they let us go out and do some fun stuff. On July the 4th, we went to a memorial and watched the fireworks, and it was pretty cool. So it was a pretty awesome week that we got there, and we didn't do anything really too crazy.
Did you get like hockey card photos, and what kind of stuff did they do to sort of initiate you?
Yeah, I think the initiation was more like at the draft, I guess, with all the photos and the media and stuff like that. I think once you kind of get picked and go down to Washington, it was a little bit more relaxed and more just kind of you're kind of settling in a little bit, so it's a little bit different that way.
Well, you had to play in a tournament, right? And your team won. The great team won.
Yeah, exactly. We got a 3-on-3 tournament at the end, so it was kind of cool to come out on top of that.
Well, that's it. But what did you have in your mind to prove or show, or what was what's at stake for you in that tournament? Because it wasn't just a fun backyard tournament.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think when you go to an NHL camp, you're putting on, an NHL jersey. It's pretty special. So you want to go out there and, prove yourself and, prove them, right for picking you, and proving your worth, I guess you could say. And, I wanted to have a good camp so I can hopefully get the contract that they, at the end gave to me. So I think that was kind of what was at stake a little bit. And, then again, you're just kind of going out there and, a little 3-on-3 tournament's pretty fun. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on.
Have any of the NHL players reached out to you since you were signed by the team, even though you didn't physically meet them?
Yeah. There's an alumni that, reached out. Carl Alsner used to play on the Caps, and he's reached out to me and texted me, congrats, and that I'll love it there. And then, an old friend of mine, Vincent Iorio, also plays in the AHL. So not the NHL yet, but he played a couple games there this year. And, he also texted me to congratulate me. So there's definitely a few guys that reached out.
All right. So when you meet Alex Ovechkin, have you practiced what you're going to say, or you're just going to just stammer and drool and be like stunned, right?
Yeah, I probably won't say too many words. I'll probably just hopefully shake his hand or, look at him and probably be smiling a lot. So it's going to be pretty surreal if I get to meet him.
The first time, just to jump in here, the first time I ever saw Ovechkin play live, because I'm from Toronto, so it was a Leafs game against Washington.
Yeah.
It looked like he was an adult playing against children. That's how much better he was than absolutely everybody else. And every time he got on the ice, the whole game shifted to be around him. And you might be on that same ice. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty insane to kind of think about, even a little bit. It's kind of, crazy. I watch him growing up so much, and now I'm kind of in the same organization, I guess, and under, same contract, I guess, to the same team. So it's pretty crazy.
Except he's 19 years older than you, but that's another story,
yeah, exactly.
Right? But your stick is not an Ovechkin curve. I learned your stick is someone from Toronto's curve.
Yeah, it is. Austin Matthews curve. Yeah.
And what is
So-
the number? I know about sticks from like my kids when they played rep, but nothing like professional. Why is that stick work for you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's called like a P92. I think it just works for me because like there's a good forehand where you got, a little bit of a curve on it, but I definitely like to use my backhand a lot. So it's, not too curvy. I think Ovechkin uses, a really big hook. So maybe not on his backhand as much as, I kind of like to be, but that's just kind of what worked for me. So, yeah.
So now that you're in the organization, do you get to tell them what kind of stick you want, or not until you actually join the full-time roster?
Yeah, I think not really until I kind of join the full roster. I'm still kind of with Kelowna right now. So it kind of goes through them a little bit, but yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that. You brought it up, so let's jump on that. Gabe, on your show last week, there were some predictions about what would happen to Andrew. Why don't you, since you said it, I'm not going to get in trouble.
Yeah, sure. You can hold me to this, man. It's just, I think, you're a high pick. You're a second round pick. Like ultimately, and I'm sure you know this, like you're going to get a chance to make the team. And like how is that affecting you now? Like, what is your plan? What is your hope for training camp? Like, where is the Kelowna versus Washington come for the next 12 months for you?
Yeah. I think for me, obviously you're going to camp and, you want to put your best foot forward and, work your hardest and, whatever happens, I guess at the end of the day. Right now, I think the thinking that I'll be in, Kelowna and, keep developing as a player and keep getting better. But at training camp, I think the thing that I want to do most is just kind of, be a sponge and learn. There's going to be a ton of NHL players and kind of like we said, Ovechkin and all these guys and, great players like Backstrom and Carlson. So I think for me, just, compete against them and, try to learn as much as I can.
Okay. So there's an issue. Training camp is on Rosh HaShanah.
Yeah.
Have you're aware of that? How are you going to navigate that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be pretty tricky, I think. So, it's a little bit of ways away. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's going to be a little tricky.
Has it ever occurred to you, anytime in your career, have you ever been tempted to like pull a Sandy Koufax and sit out on a holiday?
This year, actually, I fasted on Yom Kippur and we had a game that day. So I didn't sit the game out, but I fasted as kind of long as I could and ate my, pregame meal like right before the game. So that was kind of the only time where it's ever kind of intertwined at all. So I've been pretty lucky that way, but yeah.
One year, I don't know if you know this story. Do you know who Kevin Youkilis is? He was a Jewish player, played for the White Sox. And one year on Yom Kippur, they delayed the game an hour. So it would be after sundown because he was like a star player and he was like, I'm not playing. It's Yom Kippur. And then they made the game start at 8:30 so the sun would be down and he could eat and play.
Wow, that's awesome.
So maybe some inspiration there. One day.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it was in the winter in Kelowna, so the sun set pretty early, which was lucky for me. But it was good.
Do you care? Do you notice when other pro athletes are Jewish?
Oh yeah, definitely. You definitely know. And it's pretty cool to kind of see that in the NHL. And I got to Washington and a couple of the training staff were also Jewish and they kind of mentioned to me that, they were, and, we stick together a little bit. So that was funny, but totally, looking at it a little bit, it's definitely cool.
Something we hear from a lot of athletes, we've talked to a few NHL players before and that like from any other sports, that like when people know you're Jewish, like it doesn't really matter. Like it matters what team you play for, obviously, but like anywhere you go, there'll be opposing fans of the team that are cheering for you because you're the Jewish guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that happens basically all over. It happened in any sport. I mean, you're in Washington, you're going to go to Philly and there's going to be some Philly fan that's going to be like, you know what? I'm cheering for that guy. He's Jewish.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So who was your favorite Jewish athlete growing up?
Growing up
or now?
Yeah, now probably like Zach Hyman's pretty cool just because he's super open and he's obviously an unreal player and I watch McDavid a lot and watching him play it's pretty cool and obviously he was at the Leafs before and he was unreal there, so I think that's a guy. My dad was actually at the Maccabee games and then Zach Hyman was there and like I think he was mentioning that there he was like sitting a couple rows behind him on the bus for the opening ceremony, so that's kind of another reason why we can cheer for him.
On that Maccabee point, your dad played lacrosse for Team Canada on the Maccabee a couple of times, and the CJN covered the story, and I'll send it to you because I found it in our archives that he was on the team with a CFL player, Noah Winokur.
Noah
think.
Cantor, yeah. It was the rugby team.
Oh, rugby. I'm sorry. Why did
Yeah.
I say lacrosse? Let's do that again. Your father played on the Maccabea. So I don't know why I thought lacrosse. Your father played on the Maccabea rugby team a couple of times in Israel. But that's not hockey. So where did the hockey and athleticism come from and who guided you in your family?
Yeah, I don't know. Like my dad, I think only played like 2 years of hockey, and he was a goalie growing up, so he didn't really love it too much. I think just me and my brother got into it at an early age, being, I guess still from Vancouver, hockey's kind of the main sport, and you're in Canada, so I think we just kind of fell in love with it, and followed my brother's suit a little bit.
Well, your sister's with the Canucks too, right?
Yeah,
That's a hockey family. Which even though did she play too?
No, yeah. So it's completely the opposite with her. She really didn't like hockey at all. She, wasn't too big of a fan. And then she got to the NHL pretty quick. So she kind of jokes about that sometimes. But it's pretty cool.
Back to the Jewishness part. You played in Kelowna. You've played against places. Well, there are Jews in Kelowna. There's a nice Jewish community there, a small one. Did you ever reach out to them, or did you ever take part in any Shabbat dinners or whatever when you were in Kelowna?
It's a little bit harder just because the schedule is kind of so tough. It's hard to get Fridays off at all. Like we're always kind of either playing away or at home. But there's people in kind of the Jewish community reach out to me and stuff like that. So it was really nice. But definitely hard to get some time off.
And how do you feel like you said Zach Hyman is kind of the role model, and he's out publicly and talks about anti-Semitism on different shows and what have you. And then there's like other players who are Jewish, but sort of don't, it's not part of their persona, like the Luke and Quinn Hughes and stuff. So where do you feel you're going to fit in that, to represent or to just be yourself and play and not sort of be the Jewish NHL player, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I'd like to represent. I think I, grew up with it, and, my family's Jewish, and, we take a lot of pride in it. So, it's definitely not something that I'm going to be, shy of at all. So, hopefully kind of, follow in Zach's footsteps a little bit, I hope.
You and Devin Levy are the new generation of young Jewish NHL players.
Yeah.
It's the two of you to carry the torch right now until more guys your age. There's also Shai Boom, who got drafted the same year as Luke did, I think. And obviously the three Hughes brothers.
Yeah.
And there's a guy that played with you on the under 18, Page. What's his name? Sage Ice. What's his name?
Oh, Sage Weinstein.
Yeah, from Edmonton. Isn't he Jewish? He must be Jewish.
I think so. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, a non-Jewish Sage Weinstein would probably be a new record. We do a segment on our show called the Mike Jacobs All Stars, where it's players who sound Jewish but aren't Jewish.
Oh,
and he would be like a new, currently our champion, I think, is Jacob Silverberg. And I think Sage Weinstein would be the next one.
Yeah.
No, he isn't, or he is?
No, I think he is.
I think he is. Yeah. I'm not too sure actually though.
Have you encountered anti-Semitism at all in your life, including in hockey, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah. For me, I think, I've been pretty fortunate to not really, face any, to be honest. Like, I think for me, it's been pretty smooth, and I have a lot of, Jewish friends, and there's a lot of people, in my community for sure that, are in the same kind of situation as me. So I think I've been pretty lucky that way to not really face anything.
So chirping, none of that stuff, or?
No, not really. Yeah.
That's great.
Do you wear a Magen David or a red string or any sort of Jewishy jewelry with you, or carry talismans with you?
No, yeah, I don't wear like a chain or anything, or wear kind of anything really. I don't know, just kind of didn't really grow up with it. So
what's your Hebrew name?
Abraham.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. So something Zach Hyman did, you put out a jersey with his name in Hebrew. Would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I don't see why not. Yeah.
For the next Rosh HaShanah game, season opener, it's Yom Kippur. That's the Andrew Cristall Hebrew name jersey day.
It is on their season opener is on Yom Kippur.
Exactly.
You're number 28 with Kelowna. Will you get to keep that number with Washington, or do they make you change?
So at the development camp, I was still number 28. So at the moment, yeah, it's still mine. My number growing up was 14, but in Kelowna it was taken already. So they just doubled 14 and gave me 28. So that's kind of how it started. But nobody has it yet in Washington. So unless someone kind of comes along and grabs it, then I mean, yeah, it could be mine, but we'll see.
We would like to know if you had a hockey themed bar mitzvah.
No, I didn't actually. I think it was a YouTube thing. My brother had a hockey night in Canada, so my parents didn't want to do it twice, so I did a YouTube one.
Okay.
That's the best answer to that question we've ever had. My brother had it before me, so I wasn't allowed.
Yeah, so you
Exactly.
you have to do a Drake rebar and do something when you're 30 or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's fantastic.
Now that you're under contract, you're off a little bit for the summer, right? Or do you have to be in doing weight training? What do you have to do?
Yeah, I just work in the gym and weight train, and also on the ice, kind of just practicing and keep getting better. Even though it's the off season, you want to come prepared to go when camp starts and the season begins.
So, are you allowed now that you're under contract to play inline hockey with Connor Bedard, or is that like off limits because if you break something?
No, they haven't said anything. So we actually have a game tomorrow, so I'll be suiting up in that unless I'm told not to. But yeah.
Leave that one for the lawyers.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Let's talk a bit about Connor went first.
Yeah.
We're there. Let's go back a little bit to draft day because you mentioned at the beginning, but I really want to get more into that if that's okay.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody knew Connor was going to go first, and that was not a big, like you knew that it wasn't upsetting to you.
Yeah.
Walk us through how that day went. Day one with all the glitz and the television cameras, and you're sitting there with your family on Spilkas going, "What's my name?" Like, how do you process that?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It's hard to even kind of put into words how the whole night kind of went. It was a lot of kind of like you said, glitz and glamour, and it was kind of a production. So it was pretty cool kind of being there and seeing the name get called. And unfortunately mine didn't get called that night, but got called pretty early the next day. So it was still a great couple of days for me, but it was a super cool experience to kind of go down there and be a part of that.
When they have all this media stuff, like I'm sure your Instagram followers have tripled or whatever in the last few days, right? You got 4,000 views on your tricks, your hockey tricks, your that video that they just put up. Like that's a lot to get used to, all this leap into the media sphere. Who's coaching you on how to handle that?
Yeah, I don't think really anybody's coaching me too much. I think I've been lucky enough to do a lot of it kind of this past year, and I think I'm pretty comfortable now. So the people, my family and the people that are kind of around me trust me that I'll be able to do a decent job on the air, I guess you could say. So I just kind of try and be myself, and it works out usually.
But Gabe and I were wondering, before, when people start in the NHL, they actually have personalities, and then as they get to be more famous, they don't say anything because they're they have to be like trained. So have you?
At what point are you only just gonna dig deep and put some pucks in the net and just work hard out there? Like how long can you keep giving real answers? Yeah,
hopefully I won't. I'll keep being myself and keep the same personality. I think it's definitely a part of the game that is definitely going to become a lot more open to kids my age when they start kind of getting in the league. A lot of guys have big personalities and like to talk a little bit. So I don't think I'll be giving those quick answers anytime too soon.
That's awesome. I mean, I think it's part of your generation. Like I love Gen Z as a millennial. You guys are you have so much personality and it's great. I wish like my friends were cool. No, I'm kidding. I got one more question for you. It's sort of a Judaism related question, but you've got some pretty impressive hockey hair going on. Do you have any goals for the lettuce?
Nothing too crazy. I just kind of like it when it's a little bit longer and kind of a flowy look, I guess. So
it's really flowy. It's
exactly.
Do you have it? Does it come out of the back of your helmet? Is that that sort of salad?
Yeah. It kind of comes out the back, which I kind of like a little bit. So I try and grow it, but during the season, I kind of have to keep it a little bit clean. But no, I definitely like to kind of grow it out in the summer.
I think Judaism and hockey, the closest thing that the two cultures are together is good hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, wait, Gabe, what about the Hart Trophy? That is the most Jewish thing in hockey, besides the owners of the teams. Like Seattle, for example, Mitch Garber, whatever.
Yeah.
You won an award In grade 7 in 2014, you were called Mensch of the Month at the school at Vancouver Talmatora for doing an act of kindness. Do you remember what that act of kindness was and what this whole Mensch of the Month thing is? It's better than like MVP, so I need to know.
No, I remember the Mensch of the Month. I don't really know what I did, to be honest. Unfortunately, I can't really remember, but I remember they kind of give that award out. So yeah.
So I mean, between the Hart Trophy and the Mensch of the Month, that's the most recent one, right? That you can get.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think everyone in the class actually ended up getting it. Like there's many names there
Yeah.
and a video, but I didn't want to play it here.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Now I want to ask one last thing. So you played for Canada in 2 international team tournaments last year. So not too many people know about those. Gabe, you can help me with this better. The under 18 team Canada, they won the bronze in that tournament. And how was it to represent Canada? Because you haven't gone to the Maccabea, right? So this is like at the big stage for you. How was that for you to represent your country?
Yeah, I've been able to kind of do it a couple times. So it's been, pretty crazy to be able to put on, a jersey to represent your whole country and, a nation that kind of, supports you the whole way through the tournament and, watches your games. And, it's pretty awesome. So to be able to do that, it's been pretty surreal for me. And, growing up, I never really knew if I, be able to put that jersey on and, represent my country at all. So it's pretty cool.
And would you ever be in the Maccabea? Can you be in the Maccabea now that you're on a pro contract to represent Canada for like your dad did?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that affects it. I'd definitely be open to it. I think the Maccabea was when I was at the Ivan Holinka Gretzky tournament with Team Canada, so wasn't able to play in that. I had some of my friends play in that.
30 years from now, you and Zach will be on the seniors team, like the 50 and up team. You guys can play together with all 3. Where I guess there's 5 Hyman boys, but you can play with all of them. And Andrew Cristall right there in the post men's league.
That'll be awesome. Pretty good team.
Yeah, it's a pretty good team. Absolutely. Devin will be there too.
Yeah, and the Hughes brothers will come maybe.
And Yannick Paris. And I have the list literally right here of all the Jewish players that I'm going to read them to you. Mike Camilleri, Marty Turco, the Hugheses, Matthew Schneider, Josh Hosang, but he's in KHL now, not right?
Yeah.
Mike Brown, Jason Demers, father side, Adam Fox.
Yeah.
Help me, Gabe. Jacob Chichrin, Mark Friedman, Pittsburgh. Luke Kunin, I hope I said that right. Nate Thompson, but he converted to marry. And then
we had Nate on our show.
We had Nate.
We had Nate. Great guy. Really good dude. Loves Jewish baked goods. Like his thing whenever he goes to new cities, he finds a Jewish bakery. It's a good, like, he's like hunting for rugelach all over the NHL. Cool guy. Yeah. Anyway.
So the last thing you mentioned, that these little sort of not superstitions, but like habits or quirks, Gabe, that Jewish players that you talked about like to do. Every hockey player has superstitions or things that you do. Can you tell us what yours are or your routines that your lucky or unlucky routine?
Yeah. I think I'm like pretty like kind of go with the flow with that stuff. There's one kind of that I usually do. It's when I get changed, I go from right to left. So I put my right side of my gear on, then my left. So that's kind of the only real superstition that I have. Other than that, I'm pretty easygoing.
And is that like full on right side? Like you've got a right sock and a tied up right skate before your elbow pad even goes on? Or is it like it's like, you're down like this, like your whole body?
No, so it's like, I go like, so it'd be right sock, left sock.
Right. Okay.
Right knee pad, left knee pad, and then right skate, left skate, kind of that side of thing. And then
but this is not because we write from right to left in Hebrew. This is not having to do with that, or is it?
No, that would be actually cool if it is, I guess. But no, I just kind of what I felt most comfortable with. Yeah, I didn't even realize that. But yeah, maybe I'll say that now.
That's it. You can use it free. I'm not.
Thank you. Yeah,
because when when Vancouver, when the Canucks come to Vancouver, maybe that's when you'll get to have your debut at home on March the 16th, right?
Yeah. The circled date.
I have circled the date. I mean, and this has nothing to do. My son's favorite player has always been Washington. He's always been Ovechkin. And then when a couple of years they lost, and he burned his hat on the driveway with fire because he was so upset. And he Yeah, but but we never asked you what your favorite team was growing up. We asked your players, but we never asked you if you had a favorite team. So I see Canucks on your wall, but
Yeah, it's a pretty easy answer. It's definitely the Canucks. So yeah.
And who is your favorite Canuck?
Either the Sedin brothers or Alex Burrows growing up.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet them?
I met the Sedins, yeah. Burrows as well, actually. So yeah, I was pretty lucky to be able to meet them.
Did he bite you?
No.
Sorry, that's a from a Leafs fan. I gotta go right for it.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to ask that question. I thought about it.
Yeah.
So is there anything you want our listeners to understand about what this whole process has been like for you? Because you've had friends that have gone through this stage, but when you actually have a baby, that's the only way you know what it's like to have a baby. And everyone can tell you, but until it happens to you, you don't really, right, Gabe? Until you get it.
Totally.
Well, you wouldn't know, your wife, I'm talking, but
Yes.
So what has it been like that you didn't expect or that surprised you? Do you know what I mean? Because people prepared you, but then you went through it.
No, I think it's definitely like a roller coaster of emotions. You're going up and down a lot, and it all happens so fast. You blink of an eye, and you're back home, sitting, in your kitchen or on your living room, and just watching TV again. So it's pretty crazy. And if I just kind of go back or give someone advice, or just kind of take it all in and enjoy every moment of it.
Now that sounds like a player that's on media training, right?
I did have one quick question before we go. Two things. Is there one Jewish, not one hockey related? Hockey related, what's your favorite barn you've ever played in?
Probably, I mean, the Rogers in Edmonton was pretty crazy to go in there. It's that was awesome. Yeah, it was packed.
Stunning. It's beautiful. Yeah, it was packed. And was this for the under 18s?
No, this was actually for a special jersey night for the Edmonton Oil Kings.
That's awesome.
So they had a bunch of kids down there, and it was like, pretty crazy.
And second question, if there's a Jewish food that you could never give up, what would it be?
Ooh, for me, I think it's just like God bichala. Like it's just like I'm a pretty big bread guy, so it's pretty easy. Or matzo ball soup. I think those are the two.
Yeah, matzo ball soup is a classic. We've heard from some, I guess it was an NFL player. He chugged pickle juice on the sidelines, and that was his like way of electrolytes. But also, it was Jewish.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Imagine breathing with him in the huddle.
Yeah.
Woo!
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Gabe, so much for being
thank you so much. This is great.
Together. Thanks, Andrew. It's been great to have you on the CJN Daily.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks again to Andrew for joining us. Very cool to hear him talk about Zach Hyman. Someone we've had on the show, someone who I think Canadian Jews have a lot of affection for. Hockey fan Jews have a lot of affection for because of how he's embraced the Jewish community. So great to see another young hockey player do the same. Sort of follow in that footpath.
Absolutely. We've had Zach on the show before. He's a very nice guy, very proud of being Jewish, and Andrew absolutely is too. If you couldn't tell from the interview, that kid is sort of like loves the culture.
Yeah.
He's doing it for the culture.
Doing it for the culture. Yeah.
And is proud of his background, proud of his family, and sort of wants to make a mark for himself as a proudly Jewish athlete, similar to the way Zach has done. So it's very cool to see the community starting to like build on itself a little bit in that way.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us. We're going to end it there. As always, we're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. You can find our podcast, articles, everything else at the Canadian Jewish News website, thecjn.ca. We're produced by Michael Freeman, and you can find us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is Menschwarmers. We continue to be there.
Twitter still around?
Twitter's still around. We're still tweeting up a storm every now and then, retweeting Jewish sports stories, keeping tabs on Jews all around. So find us there.
I think a lot of people on Twitter these days keep tabs on Jews.
That's true. We might have to migrate to Blue Sky or Threads at some point if Twitter really goes under, and we can create a new community of dudes keeping tabs on Jews, but in a good way and in relation to
That's
sports.
Right. The good kind of people keeping tabs on Jews.
Yeah. So like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we will be back in your ears soon.